All right, let's start her off. Respect your time. My name is Brian Kale. I'm from Goose Creek District. That is from Loudoun County, Virginia. Okay. Woo! Loudoun County. My email, ekale@ekale.com. And like I said, I get dozens and dozens and hundreds of emails about scouting anyway. If you have any questions about something, let me know. If I can't get the answer, I'll find it for you. All right, so we're going to talk about keep those leaders motivated. Okay. This is the first year that I've actually taught this course, and this morning was the first time I actually ran through the slides, and I'm pretty pleased. It worked out well, so you never know. However, keeping leaders motivated is a huge, huge subject in scouting. We are a volunteer organization, no doubt about it. There are no packs out there I know who have a wonderful, professional scouter who is part of their leadership corps. Doesn't happen. We're all volunteers. It's very funny when we do things, people are like, well, why did you do this? I'm a volunteer. You're a volunteer, right? We're doing our best. And we all are. Okay? But we're always talking about motivation. Lord Baden-Powell had a saying for everything. I swear, I just hope that some people will remember me for one saying. That's all I'm looking for. One saying. You know what, Brian, you should say this. Lord Baden-Powell's got something for everything. In this case, I believe this is very important and actually applicable, and you'll see why before all the slides are An individual step in character training is to put responsibility on the individual. He was mainly speaking about boys at the time, but I believe this also applies to adults. We'll see why. All right. Love courses that start out with the definition of the word. Why? Because so often we start off talking about something and it comes down to we all had different feelings or different understandings of the word. So let's talk about it for just a quick second. Motivation is a noun. Giving of a reason to act, enthusiasm, reason, forces determining behavior. I like the fourth one best. Forces determining your behavior. Okay, keep it in mind. All right, so what motivates people? Without exception, one of these four motivates everyone. Now, it doesn't mean that it solely is the only thing that motivates you. And you may have a little bit of each one, but one of them will be your primary motivation. Okay? Let's talk about recognition for a second. That talks about respect, esteem, celebrity, these kind of things. Okay? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that your motivation is to get these things. Your motivation could also mean that you want to emulate somebody that you respect, that you have esteem for, that you want to emulate somebody that has a certain notoriety. Just both those directions there. Okay? Now, these both traits do go both ways. Keep that in mind. Influence, power, control, order. You're like, well, that's not what we teach in scouting. We don't do that. You've been to your committee meeting lately? Sure you do. This is not necessarily a negative. This doesn't mean that you have some despot that's trying to take over your committee meeting. But everyone has a certain, well, I think we should do it this way. Well, this will definitely work. We should do it this way. Okay? That's about control. Hopefully, the control is about positive control. I really believe that I have a good idea and this will be the most efficient way of going forward. Right? That's the good control. Versus the, you will do it my way or you will go. Okay, that's bad control. But, so these are also positives. Okay? We don't highlight them in scouting, but they're in there. They're sort of in the background. Internal. Morals, duty, honor. These are what most people think of when they think of motivation for scout leaders and volunteers. Right? I'm an Eagle Scout. This one right here has what I call Eagle guilt. Okay? If I get an adult come into my pack, a brand new parent, and the father says, well, I was an Eagle Scout. Soul, love you, because I know he's got Eagle guilt. What's Eagle guilt? He has been taught throughout his entire scouting career that he should be giving back. The culture has trained him that he should, by his honor, give back everything he can to his community, and he will already be predisposed to be a volunteer for me. He's been looking for a reason to get back in scouting. His son is his ticket to get back in. When my oldest boy became 6 years old, back in, yes! Yeah, it was great. Because if you show up without a son, what are you doing here? I want to help. No, I don't think so. It's a shame, but because we have the best intentions, but that boy, then that Eagle guilt kicks in, right?
Where are those that show up without sons and just want to help?
I had an Eagle boy come up. He just got out of the service and came in, but he didn't have a son, and so the families of my pack didn't feel quite comfortable. And I have to respect that. You know, that's okay. But you know, but this is the kind of thing. Eagles naturally come into this. This is more likely the the wheelhouse where people say, well, this is where all scout leaders come from. Mostly. Okay? And then there's profit. Okay, this is when you're like, well, this is not scouting at all. Yeah, maybe. Success, acquisition, income, growth. Ultimately, what happens is a lot of times you'll have folks that are very driven that way. That may be what they are like in their business world. This may be who they are. That's not a bad thing, but that's their motivation. And understanding the motivation of your people is important. Okay? Now, I mean, you say, well, this is not scout-like at all. Maybe. Maybe you have a volunteer who is motivated by knots. They want to do great things, but they really tend to find their way to work to a knot and then work to another knot. Maybe that's what they do. That's okay. You just need to know their motivation. Okay, so why do we care? Yeah, that was really good. That was really, wow. Why do we care? You got to know what drives your leaders, your volunteers, right? What keeps them excited? What motivates them tells you what keeps them excited. What makes them feel they're worth for doing something important? You know, what makes them want to come back more? What makes them do their best? There's a book out there called The 5 Love Languages. The 5 love languages talk about what people perceive as the most important things that makes them feel the most loved, the most cared for. There are 5 things. One of them, words of affirmation, quality time, quality conversation, acts of service, gifts, physical touch. Those are the 5 things. They're the 5 love languages. Every single person in this room, one of those 5 is your primary and makes you feel the best, whether you know it or not. And you typically use your dialect, which one is important to you, naturally on everybody. Of course you would. Just like you use your language, your primary one, on everybody, until you find out otherwise, if you know another language, right? Same thing applies here. You typically will look at everyone by your motivation, right? That's not necessarily true. You need to sort of look at it from what is their motivation. And you need to play to that. That's what you need to do to make them feel important and keep them motivated. Okay, so what's the bottom line? Ultimately, your volunteers absolutely must feel appreciated, that their time, effort, and skills are being used appropriately and respectfully. Right? How do you feel if all of a sudden, you're doing something and you're giving several hours of your hard-earned time, you only have a few hours to give, and it's not being used very well, you feel, gosh, what a waste of time. What am I doing here? Boy, that motivates you, doesn't it? We've got to respect these things. They need to feel that they're making a difference. Not every job is super, oh my gosh, live or die. But every single one of them needs to make a difference. They need to see the end result. They need to understand, what does it mean? Where are they going to, what does the change does it make from what they do? Every one of them needs to be a challenge. Even some of the most mundane ones have their own challenges. And finally, they have to feel that their work is important. Okay. Motivation comes from the inside and outside. And your thought process now is, then why are we talking? I can't fix it. Alright? We have the ability to help it along, to set them up for success and to sort of draw them out in that way. So what's the first thing we do? Look at yourself. Look at your organization first. Does your unit, meaning your leadership, understand the mission? That seems like a really easy question. But it really is a hard one. Do you truly understand the mission? The mission is not how much popcorn can we sell. The mission is not how many camping trips we go on. The mission is to equip the boys to make good character decisions, prepare them for Boy Scouts. That's your job. That's the mission, right? Does everybody understand that? Do they see it? How do you communicate? Or how do you not communicate? Right? What are your views of success? How do you measure it? How do we measure it? How many of you have actually sat down with your committee and decided how do you measure success? I never see hands on this one. My committee's not even done this. Because it's hard. And it's like, oh, we got so many other things to concentrate on. Really? What's your success? And have you been specific on the roles, responsibilities, time commitments? You know the old movie where you see the poor mule who's circular and he's working at a blacksmith and he's just going around in circles and circles. And sometimes he has a carrot, and sometimes he doesn't. He just keeps going round and round. Without an end point to a job, that's the way volunteers eventually feel. Here we go. I gotta do this again. Oh, it's next month. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You have a Cub Master who's been a Cub Master for 4 or 5 years. Another pack meeting. Another pack meeting. And they eventually start looking at, well, my son graduates in 4 more months. Right? They become that mule. And they become demoralized. Right? Every job, no matter what it is in Cub Scouts, should have a time limit on it. That doesn't mean that at the end of the time limit that you kick them out of the pack. It just means that, hey, we're asking you to take this commitment for 6 months, a year. This event. It is very powerful to do that because the volunteer says, I'm going to give my best. And it's not a never-ending point where it keeps pushing out further away from it. It's very important. Keep that in mind too. Okay? It's important that your pack is in lockstep with understanding of these questions. What's the answer? The answer may not be positive. The answer may be bad. How do we communicate? Maybe it's bad. That's okay. As long as you understand how you do it and then you start planning on how you improve. But everyone should agree that this is what we do. Okay. Comes down to big expectations. If you want to keep your volunteers motivated, you need to they need to know what their job is. What's the duration of the assignment? How much work will be expected? Right? If I sell you a job and you think it's an hour a week and it's 16 hours a week, that's going to be hard to motivate yourself, isn't it? When you didn't exactly set it up in your mind, okay, I volunteered for this, but because most of the people we get as volunteers commit, and they commit no matter what, and they'll keep pushing the rock. They'll be tired, not happy, but they'll push the rock because they feel duty bound, right? We'd almost be better off sometimes if we go no, stand up and go no. Yeah, we'd almost be better off sometimes. So what's the motivators in scouting? We're going to go through each one of these, but what's the bottom line? Getting to know your volunteers and leaders will let you know what they need. Okay? What they need to feel they are making a difference. Okay, let's start heart connections for a minute. How much do you know about your volunteers, your leaders? You know what they do for a living? You know their name, right? Hey, you laugh, but you'd be surprised. Do you know what they do for fun? You know anything about them as far as a hobby? What do they like to do as far as in the pack? Do they like being up front? Do they like the organization part? Do they like being in the background, taking care of things? Do they want to be out there being the big pizzazz guy? What do they like doing? You need to know these things because you need to match them up. You know? How much time do they have to volunteer? If they really, really, really only have 1 hour a week, you better find them a job that's no more than really, really, really 1 hour a week. In reality, you probably got to find them one that's 30 minutes a week. Because in reality, the 1 hour may be hard to get. You may need the 30 minutes. You should break down your tasks into smaller chunks so they can do that. But you need to match them up. You need to recognize their personal needs problem. By getting to know them, you know when things are going well. They may not communicate with you that things are going absolutely horribly. But if you get to know them, you'll start to figure it out. If you have honest conversation with them, you really know. You know, make sure you always greet them by name. Thank them early and often. And I don't mean, hey, good job, thanks for the job. Specifically, thank them. Take time to talk with them. People need to feel that they are not just there as a workhorse. Take the time. And truthfully, some of my very, very best friends are in my pack. We spend time talking about stuff, and in reality, we have so much in common outside of Scout. That's where the heart connections come in. And, you know, they have work assignment, takes them away for a while, let them know they were missed. You probably really did anyway, because the job wouldn't get done. But that's not the reason you tell them you missed them, because you genuinely did, you miss them. You missed their company. You missed them being around. It's important. Tell them you are important to our group. Okay, communication. I love this picture because this was back when my boys were bears. We were doing the yelling game. And both basically, it was a competition to see who could yell the longest. We both were just sitting there yelling at each other. I took the challenge on of whoever the boy who could yell the longest in the back. That's how I could still do it. I could beat him. What was the program I was teaching there? That communication is about sending and receiving, not about just sending and expecting it to be done. Right? We both yelled. Doesn't mean either one of us would understand what the other was saying. But communication, feedback. Feedback is a gift. That's what we teach in Wood Badge. It's very, very important. It is the truth. Feedback is sometimes hard to do. None of us want to really have that hard conversation where I can say, you know what, that was the best thing I've ever seen. Okay, that's what we all want to say, but sometimes it's not the truth. We need to be honest. Not mean, honest. What does that mean? That means that I can still have an honest conversation with you about something that's not going quite right without making it personal or making it seem like you failed. We're all volunteers. We're all doing a hard job sometimes. And we have thousands of other things bombarding us in life. Sometimes this is like 5th, 6th, 25th on our list of things to get done that day. Remember that. You know, be available to status and to replan and stuff. If they ask you a question, you need to answer it as soon as possible. Why? Because the reason they asked the question is because it was important to them at that time. If you say, well, it's not important to me and I'm going to answer you in a week, you don't know if that affects their timeline and makes it difficult or more stressful for them. But it does tell them that, by the way, your timeline is not as important as mine and I can't answer you for a week. If I have given you a set of things I need you to do, and I take a week to answer you, I've obviously told you that your timing is not important to me. Sometimes you maybe need that same day to send an email going, really busy, I'll get to you, I'll answer this tomorrow, or give them a real time, in 2 days, because I'm doing a paperwork, whatever the case may be. That's acceptable. That shows that I seriously do care, but my real world is crashing in on me. Because everybody understands that, and it's true. Well, once again, honest. Give feedback. Do brainstorming sessions. Just because you've done the same thing every year and it's done and it works perfectly doesn't mean it's the best possible way. Add new blood. One of the things that makes PAC so fun are the leadership turns over so quickly because the boys age out. Every time it's some new blood and it's a new way of doing things. Brainstorm. Don't just keep going, what are we going to do this because we've always done this. It's still, you may still end up back on your traditional way, but at least you've explored some possibilities to let people express themselves and what they, what they think, which is important. Make sure you explain things fully. Details, not generalities. Especially if they've never done the job before or anything you're doing, at that point, you can't expect them to understand. If I tell you, I want you to run our blue and gold, okay? They've attended one blue and gold. That's great. They have absolutely no idea where we get our food, how does this work, where does entertainment come from, how do we get the location, what is our limitations, how do we do this? Unfair. I have just set them up for a ton of stress. That demotivates them. By giving them the details, they'll still do a great job as best they can from the limited details I give them, but I can't fault them for what the product is. Regular conferences. Develop a way to capture experiences. If they're not good at writing it down, have them say it to somebody else and have them write it down. Lessons learned and corporate experience is powerful. It allows a lot of questions that so often get asked to be answered, and it's very freeing. You can throw the book away if it's not what you want to do the next year. That's fine, but at least you have it that year and you can use it as reference. And it's okay to expect written documentation from other people when jobs. If it's not their forte, help them. Find somebody, or you do it. They'll find a way to capture all this information. Yep. Time spent communicating? Hours of work. All right, be organized. Oh, by the way, this is a game of take out the trash as far as the boys against the adults. They always have fun. Well, respect their time. Everyone has an amazing amount of things that are on their plate, time-wise. The fact that you guys took today for training, we should be oh so thankful, and I am, that you're here, because it is hard to take a whole day of your life. But we need to be ready for meetings. I want to start on time, I want to end on time. I need to respect your time. We want to have agendas so we don't meander off in crazy land. Or war stories over here that take 30 minutes and then we get back to eventually where we need to be. The war stories are after the meeting's up, for those who have time. Goals? You bet. Have some. Here's an interesting one. How many times have you got a volunteer and you say, well, we need to do this, and the activity really probably needs 2 people to do it, and you can't get anyone to help. The one person needs to do it by themselves, or you have 10 people show up to do it. What have you just said when you show 10 people to show up something that only takes 2 people? 1, I don't understand the task. 2, I'm not sure about your capabilities. And 3, obviously I think you all have all the time in the world, so I want as many people as possible to come out there and possibly waste their time. We're busy people, and we need to respect that. Start on time, end on time. Oh. Volunteers often state that lack of time is their largest stressor, and their ultimate reason they're not happy volunteering. Some people could say, well, that's my go-to when I really don't want to do something. That's true too. But this is a real problem. A real problem in Northern Virginia for sure, and in the Washington metro area. We are seriously time-strapped, so make sure you respect your time. Feedback. Be honest and straightforward. Feedback is a gift. Job performance, areas of improvement, levels of success. Be clear. Okay, areas of improvement does not mean that I need to say that you are not good or you're doing bad work. It is a teamwork atmosphere of how can we move the ball further down the field? How can we do better? That applies to me, applies to you, applies to everybody. How can we do better? How can I do better for you? Right? Feedback is both directions. Conflict management. Conflict will happen. Conflict that has not been resolved will demotivate very quickly. Okay? Expect it to happen. People have bad days. If you've truly gotten to know each other, it's okay to go, you know what? I'm having a horrible day. Can we talk about this tomorrow? And the person goes, sure. Because you've developed a heart connection already to know that they're being genuine and honest with me, and we'll be more productive when we talk, and we're both in a more receptive mode. When you get a conflict going on that is not resolved quickly, that's how packs get in trouble. Because the leaders set the tone, and the volunteers set the tone of how the rest of the pack will operate. Right? Once again, back to this. Notice I've got this multiple times in this slide stack. It's important. We do a very poor job with it. It's very important. Succession planning, knowing when things are going to, how things are going to work. These are important to do. You should think of these even before the task starts. Now, the first time I gave this, the word confront, I think, what do you mean by confront? Okay, I don't mean confront like get in someone's face and confront. I mean the fact that you can't let it lie, you can't let it fester. If there is a problem, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed constructively, positively. Okay? If there's something going on where I believe that someone is just not not doing the job, then we need to talk about what the limitations or what the stopping factors are. And can I solve them for you? Can I provide it? Can we find some way to fix it? Or maybe this job is not the right fit for you. That happens too. People get into a job and find out, months or later, wow, I really hate this. Okay, I should get you into something else quickly. Because I want you to still be a volunteer. I still want you to feel like you're doing something that's very worthy. And let me find something you do enjoy, because people do their best work when they enjoy it, right? And they're always bad jobs, but you don't want it to be like, oh, I hate this. You don't want that. Enable success. Let them grow out of the job. What do you mean? The person should get to the point where they get to be an expert in that job. Once they are, and then once they've made certain improvements, find them another job. You're like, wait a minute, I'm getting my best stuff out of them now. No, then you're going to get them being bored. And then you're going to get them not giving the best. And then you're going to give not the right product. Okay? You need people to want to grow and have a stretch goal. If you don't have a stretch goal, I want to learn a little bit of this, a little bit of that, then eventually they're going to burn out. I've been Cub Master for 3 years. My middle son is a tiger. My youngest son is 2 years younger than that, so I have 7 more potential years as Cub Master. Will I be Cub Master for 7 more years? No, I will not. I will find a successor in probably the next year and a half. mainly because I love doing Cub Master, being a Cub Master. But eventually, I will find that I will be repeating and regurgitating the same stuff and not stretching it. I love training. I love being district roundtable commissioner. That's what I need to focus on. You need to find stretch goals, and everybody needs to. That's why the pack having a 5-year life expectancy of a leader at most works out pretty well usually. But you want them to be able to grow. And then hold an exit interview. When they're being done with that position, hey, what do you think we need to talk to the next volunteer for this? How can we improve this job? What we need to change to make this, more time, the time better, where it doesn't take so much time, or we're more efficient at it. And make sure you think early enough. These are big things. These are motivators. Your volunteer could take many positions throughout the history of how long they're going to be with the pack. Don't lock them into one. I know we're in this role as citizen and volunteers for something like, thank you. And we don't ever want to let them go because we're afraid we're going to find somebody else, right? Yes. Sometimes it's hard. You get that first tiger leader. Yes, they're going to be den leader for 5 years. This is great. You may find out a year and a half in, they don't like being den leader. Do you want them to be den leader for the next 3.5 years? No, you don't. But you can find them something else to do to make a difference. Oh. Always have time. All right, delegate. That seems like a hard one. Well, how do we delegate more? We seem to, your level of work impacts your responsiveness and also impacts other people by how quickly they can get their job done. The volunteer's level of work is burnout and stress. There's too much to do and they can't get it done in the amount of time that they have available. They will stress, and then the work will suffer what they're trying to do, and ultimately they will be very unhappy in what they're doing. And you're not doing anybody any favors. Delegate. Have more people. Trust your volunteers. Let them plan out things. Let them break it up into smaller things. If they need to go have someone else help them, support that. They know better than you do what's necessary to get the task done. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have a plan B in your pocket. That doesn't mean you don't trust them. That means the things that are the most important in your program. You need to make sure that you have a way to make sure that program continues forward in case the unexpected happens. Things happen in people's lives. Work, family issues, illnesses, all kinds of things. You need to have your plan B. It doesn't mean you don't trust them. It just means that you want to make sure the program survives and does well. Okay? Overloaded. It's so easy. You have some volunteers that will say yes to everything. They've got the me syndrome. A lot of scout leaders, a lot of them wearing the brown shirts usually. I've got that syndrome. We wear lots of hats. And we don't know when to say no. Be that person for your people. Know when it's too much for them and go, let me get some else to do. Thank you so much for volunteering for that. Or you can even say, you know what? If you would prefer to do this job, let's see if we can find someone to take the other job from you, and then we can, you get something new to work on, and somebody else can move that the spot that you're an expert in now. Maybe that's the way to go. Look for mentors. Just because you have somebody in your pack that doesn't have the time to volunteer doesn't mean they can't be a mentor. Sometimes it just has, I've been there, done that, are very valuable in your enabling success. All right. So, are you familiar with their assignment? You know what they need to do? Have you ever done it before? You need to know the details. Not because you're going to do it or go behind them and verify their work. Just so that you can ask real questions and help them see the pitfalls that could be coming. And help put resources in place to help them get there. They may not know every single parent in the pack and know where to reach for more resources. Hopefully you do. Or somebody in your pack does. Ask them to train others. There is no greater respect that you can give somebody by saying, you know what, can you help train this other person to help do this job? That means that I trust and believe in the way you do the work, and I believe in you to the point that you can convey that information to somebody else. That is incredibly high praise. Provide them training. Don't set them out there in the wilderness without training. Use them as consultants. Just because they're burnt out for the moment doesn't mean that they can't go and just be there as sort of a, a second set of eyes. There's not a whole lot of time, and a lot of times they don't want to be completely removed, because being completely removed is very easy for someone to view themselves as a failure, which they're not. They've done incredible work. They've used up their reserve tanks and they need to refill them, right? Being a consultant allows them to still be involved without having the every single step, every single moment type responsibility. Big time. View it as, it's like work experience. What are they experience doing? And how does that match the jobs that I need to get done? Match your people up with what you need to do. The better they are matched with things that they find as fun and they have a skill for and a natural propensity for it, the more motivated they'll be. That falls within their wheelhouse. This is something they're good at. Do you want someone who absolutely hates math to be your treasurer? Not usually. Someone who is not super detail oriented? No. You want somebody who is sort of phobic about getting in front and speaking to people, being your Cub master? No. Find things that they are in sort of their skill set, something they like doing. Now, you may have a volunteer go, you know what, I would really like to try this. Respect that, because they've now spoken to you and said, I see this in me, I want to stretch, I want to try this. And that's powerful too, because they have really stepped forward and said, I'm going to do my best and I want to grow, which is what you want to do. You want to help them grow. And that's a great motivator as well. It's very tempting to go, here's just more work for me now. I don't want to do that. No. Provide them, a breakdown of some tasks that allow them to stretch and try. That's good for them, that's good for their kids, that's good for you. Act now. Alright, so what does act now have to do with motivation? How many times have you planned and planned and planned? We should talk about this some more. Talk about this some more. Oh, we should talk about this some more. You know what? I don't think we've talked about it enough. You want to demotivate volunteers is you over-plan something. We're not launching rockets to space. We're not trying to get something into orbit or something incredibly complex, no brain surgery. Sometimes you just got to act. That doesn't mean you just go half-cocked and go off there without having a plan. But if you've taken some of your volunteers' time, you've gone through the what-ifs, you've put together a general plan, start it up. Get them involved. Keep them while they're still excited. They're still committed. If you have beat them into submission by talking about it to the point where they really couldn't care less, what good is it? You're not going to get them to do anything, and you're demotivated. Strike while the iron is hot. But set realistic time goals. Also, give them time to actually be successful. If I come up and I have not gotten anybody to on the hook for blue and gold, and it's January, and my blue and gold is the third Thursday of February. Hey, you know what? I need you to be the blue and gold chairman. If I'm you, I'm like, no. You're going to be blue and gold chairman because you have not allowed any time to get a place, catering, and everything else. More than likely, I will have chosen a leader that I know can't say no because and I've got you. But that's bad of me. Should have done that. I should have given enough time. That's one of those, thinking through the possibilities and setting a realistic timeline through your planning committees and everything. Those should come up and get somebody online. If you are going to plan your spring camping trip, you more than likely should have a place to go by December, right? Just the thought process, not to mention the limited number of places around here and as many units as there are, it's very easy to get locked out. Do not ever use group requests. We all use group requests. Why? Why would you use group requests? It works so well, right? You get so many volunteers from your group requests. Ooh, me, I'll take it. No, nobody does. Why? Because the vast majority of us know that A, we don't know exactly what you're asking for, when its endpoint is, what the amount of work is, and B, ultimately I sort of want to be asked. I've got enough things going on. I don't need to voluntarily add more things to my life. This is where your committee and other folks come together to, with a list of names and sort of knowledge of everyone in the pack, all the parents in the back, go, who would be the best fit for this? And you choose your top 2 or 3. And this subcommittee goes, I think Bob would be great for this job. Yeah, I agree. He really has, we've seen him do this kind of thing in the past. He's really good at it. He's our number 1. And then you have a couple leaders go talk to Bob, like, Bob, we believe that you are the perfect fit for this job. We want you to be assistant Cub master. Will you do it for us? Okay? You've shown him the respect and the fact that we believe that you're a good fit for the job. We've given it the thought necessary to choose you as for your skill sets. And we have now come to you and asked you yes or no. 99 times out of 100, the answer will be yes. You've asked for the same. You know, you haven't just thrown some random thing. You know, they will say no from now and then. I just don't have time. Well, those kind of situations. But if you've given it real true due diligence, you know who has the skill set and who has the ability to step into those roles. Use that capability. It's a sign of respect. And ultimately, these folks will be motivated to do the best job ever because they have been chosen specifically by the leadership. It's a big deal. The leadership thinks I can do this job. All right. How about lid on warriors? Who has warriors in their back? People who worry about everything. Why do I add these in motivation? Because warriors are not bad apples. They're not like one bad apple spoils the whole barrel. But it's simple. People who worry, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that you need to be able to manage that because worry can actually get you into spins of multiple meetings or inactivity or or the gloom and doom of things that's never going to happen or you're never going to be able to actually succeed. Are they people you shouldn't have as volunteers? Absolutely not. They should be volunteers. Everyone should be a volunteer in a pack. You're part of the family. But there are things you can do to help out with worries. Everyone has certain things they worry about. You need to motivate them with tasks that are within their capability. A lot of things that we're worried about is the fact that, well, I don't know if I can trust him to get that done. I'm not sure about this. And it seems too big for this group. That person, I'm not sure they can get it done. It's all in your responsibility. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't worry about their own capabilities. That's okay. You anticipate the worries. You think about these things before you put out a task. What are the possible things that would be the worries I would have? And know that there will be other people who are studying the same thing. Find ways to mitigate it. We're probably going to have a problem with the sheer number of people right here that can actually show up on this weekend. Let's go ahead and take a immediate poll to make sure we have enough people. If not, we'll have a backup date. Mitigate these things. Take care of some of these things up front. See that they grow in their job and confidence. As more and more successes happen, the worries tend to subside. That doesn't mean that warriors will stop worrying. I'm a warrior. I worry about a lot of things. Sometimes in the pack in the way of getting stuff done. But you know what? Ultimately, at the end of the day, I trust that the other leaders that I have will properly take care of everything. And even in the worst kind of situation, how bad could it be? We'll overcome. We all have the same vision. We all know the mission. And we all believe in scouting. How bad could it be? Right? So, don't let it derail you. But also be aware of it because warriors tend to be part of the folks you need to make sure you keep motivated. Be thankful. I am sure that when you signed up for this course, this is probably what you thought most of this course would be. Hey, what are the 1,000 ways that we can show to be thankful to people? What are all the different gimmicks and things that we can do, right? Being thankful is a very important thing, but knowing motivation and actually setting people up for success is more important than all the possible things we can give them. That doesn't mean you should never do it. Public thank yous. By knowing the volunteers, you know whether or not they want a public thank you or not. Some people absolutely would rather be stabbed than brought forward in the front of the audience and thanked in front of the pack. They really would. They shrink into a small fetal ball. It's like, please, I don't want to go bury it. And you're like, you just want to thank them. Know that. If you have folks like that, make sure you thank them in front of their family. Why? Because their son needs to see that it's important to thank others for their jobs and what they do. That's why you thank people in front of the pack. To show the boys that it is very important to reach out and show everybody it's important to thank for even the smallest of jobs. Gratitude is a huge character issue. Okay? If they don't mind being brought in front of the pack is great. The son will be beaming if mom or dad is up front and being thanked. It will be like the best thing ever. That's great. they want their son to be proud of them too. Their parents do great things outside of scouting, all of that, and they don't get thanked nearly enough. Match the personality of your volunteer. This goes back to heart connections, knowing your volunteers. Make it personal. Okay, me saying thank you for a great job. Hey, thanks, great job. That meant nothing. If I can't be specific, then I really am better off not saying. And being specific is very important. And that means I know the details. If I don't, I should know the details of what you're doing anyway, right? Remember we talked about it a couple slides ago? Add something that shows that I know. I want to thank Mr. Smith for the fact that he provides a trailer multiple years for the pack during our scouting for food. The fact that he brings that trailer and allows us to put multiple thousands of pounds of food on there, and instead of using 15 cars each year to go back and forth, which could be a safety issue, but by doing that and bringing it all in one mass, saves us hours and hours of time, and also makes a great visual for the boys. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much for your service. How long did that take? A few seconds. I was specific. Not just thank you for what you did. And his son will be in the audience going, yeah. Right? Doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to be genuine. All right. So, what are some specifics? How can you do this? Do you guys have a newsletter? Yeah. Put them in the information, a blurb in the newsletter. Be specific. How about sending a letter of commendation to their employer? What? Why would you do that? Work is one of the places that most people spend the vast majority of their life. If I send a letter to your employer that I want to send a letter of recommendation for Mr. Smith, who has been an invaluable volunteer to our scouting organization. His attention to detail and allowing the program to move forward by taking care of detail makes our job so much easier and has made all the difference in the world to the character development of these young men and women, or whatever it is. Being very specific, sending that in. That has value. The boss of his at work will go, you know what? I got a letter of commendation for you. And they now know more about their employee and what the good that they do. Will it affect their job like, hey, here's your raise? Probably not. But you know what? It's a good thing to do. Because you mean well, you're genuine, and you're showing the value that that this is how much I value what you've done. Volunteers of the month. If you're doing media coverage, hey, you guys are doing a service project, cleaning something up, and someone comes up, a reporter. Well, yeah, we've been out here doing this service. It's being spearheaded by Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones, and these two gentlemen have been tireless in their ability to go out and make sure we have the tools and availability. And then if they get written up in the newspaper, talk about thank you. You know when the birthdays are, your volunteers? Pack records. Send them a card. Know if something has happened in their family, send them a card. Sometimes just send them a card. And you know what? We don't say thank you enough for what you've done. Be specific. Cost you what, 45 cents? Well, actually a postcard nowadays is 30 cents or whatever it is. Great investment. And then of course the annual ceremonies. We all do these. Let's call everybody up and here's you, something, and here's you something, here's you something. Make it important. Make it genuine. Knots? Yes. Whether your leader wears his knots or not, immaterial. Make sure you're tracking them, make sure you're turning them in and getting the knots and presenting them in front of the boys just as if it was an award that a boy earned. It's just as important. Just thank you. Look out for local awards, district dinners. If you see that there are a local community or nonprofit is sponsoring a volunteer of the year type thing, nominate somebody. Nominate your volunteers. District award dinners. Our district has the unit volunteer of the year award. Nominate them. Maybe the pack will pay for their dinner. Show them how much you care. Traditional, make a tradition of, interesting little tchotchkes. Okay, are these like something that the people are going to probably put in the back shelf somewhere? Yes. That's okay. You took the time, took the effort, and made a big deal, and the boys liked seeing it too. The gold spoon for blue and gold. You know, the Bright Idea Award. There's like thousands of those. Some of them are so corny that it makes you actually, your teeth hurt how corny they are. Like, wow, wow. You know, but it's about the sentiment, the genuine feeling, and the genuine want to say, I appreciate what you've done. Lastly, have fun. If you're not having fun, I can guarantee your volunteers aren't having fun. Because more likely you're influencing them. Are they having fun? Have you paid attention? Have you seen if they're having fun or not? Okay, don't get me wrong, there will always be some activities like it's just not fun. There are moments in everything that are just not fun moments. You know, we're not going to be laughing the livelong day as we're doing stuff. If we do, then I'm sort of curious about your volunteers. But you know, are they having fun? Here's the key question. Is their job impacting their ability to spend time with their son? If the volunteer work that you've got them doing has them not being able to spend quality time with their son in your program, you should find them another job or else find them help so you can co-op it off so they can do something about that. Because it's about family. If you have a guy whose job is managing your Pinewood Derby, but he never gets to see his son race, find at least one of the volunteers and flop it out to where he can be there with his son cheering on their car. It's about family, right? That's motivating because it tells that volunteer, I care about your family involvement in this program. I want you and your son to have the best time ever. I'm so appreciative you're helping us, but I want to make sure that that's the most important thing. Take that time. Make sure you're keeping up with that. That's sometimes hard to figure out. You've got to think through, well, what are they doing to this activity? What are they doing to this activity? You know, are they able to have that time with their son? Fun outings then. What about potluck dinner, where really there's really nothing more than go set it up at some playground. All the kids have fun, and the adults just can sit back and relax and just eat. It's re-energizing. It's showing that you're everyone together. It allows you to go around and talk to people and express your appreciation. Maybe you can arrange for an interesting, fun activity at a camp. Maybe it could be something else. Maybe it's a game of laser tag with your adult leaders. No kids, just the adults. How often do you get to do that? Something fun, because it is about fun, and it's about, you know what, we are working hard towards this program for character for our boys, but we also want to get something ourselves. We want to have some fun times too. Not everything in life has to work. Can't force fun. I know I've tried, but have fun with yourself. It's about the time experience. All right, so what's the key takeaways? Always ask these 4 questions. Does my volunteer feel appreciated? Feel that they're making a difference? Feel that they have a challenge with their task? And that their work is important? If the answer to any one of those 4 is no, then you need to address that. If it's a temporary no, like just this one particular moment in time, because things just, everybody has a bad day, like, we were putting together the food for, this is our grub master for this minute. Oh, we forgot to bring a pot, and it's just frustrating. Okay, that's different than the rest of these. Okay, you need to look at this. Do you answer the yes for these things? For your task, always ask these 2. Is it well defined? Is it time limited? With a beginning time and an end time. They can always volunteer for more. But is there an end time? Is it success oriented? Supported by training and has the ability to allow for it. Always focus on your mission, your expectations, communication, your honesty. There's no excuse not to be honest. This guy is trustworthy. Heart connections. Last 2. Servant leadership and gratitude. Your job as a leader is to serve others. Servant leadership. That's what we're teaching the boys. That's what you should be emulating. That's what you should be demonstrating. And gratitude. I make a point of at least thanking every single one of my leaders once a month. It's not because, oh, it's a checkbox. Because I am genuinely so pleased and so thankful that they're taking care of this activity, which is one less thing I have to do. And they do it so well, better than I could ever do. We've got a brand new popcorn colonel who has excelled at attention to detail and managing things and communication and everything. And I wrote, I'm like, I cannot tell you how freeing and how wonderful it has been having a popcorn colonel who has stepped into the gap and provided this level of attention to this task, which a lot of people view as a really sort of yucky task, and has done it with such grace and such obvious skill. And I am 100% genuine because I am so thankful. You know, take the time. It doesn't take long. Sometimes it's just an email. Communicate all the time. All the time. There's no such thing as over communication. Now that doesn't mean I'm sending you an email, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? That's not communication. That's pinging somebody. Communication is truly, I am sending a message, you are receiving it. Okay, it's not me just firing out, you know, status requests. Be aware of their motivation. Use that motivation to fit them in with the best job that fits their motivation. Be clear. If there are any questions about clarity, take the time to clear it up. Even if it doesn't seem convenient, take a moment to clear it up. Think early and often. Give them room to grow. Leverage their ideas. Even if you've done it the same way for 20 years in that pack, take new ideas, weigh them against, and see if it makes sense to try something new. Be genuine. Here's the key one right here. If you take nothing else away from this entire presentation, take this. Always remember, every single one of your volunteers, and you too, have other time commitments and priorities in your life. You have to respect those. They're juggling them just like you are. Sometimes things just don't work out. It's not because the will wasn't there. Sometimes it's just not the time. Don't stress. Have fun. Questions?
How do you go about
How do I go about recruiting?
when you have a person who's never been a leader before? So you go about recruiting that person in a way for a job that is overreach, or a job that you just think they should do, or how do you go about it?
You've already done the heart connection at that point. You should know enough about them to know that maybe they don't have that skill right now, but do they have the propensity to learn the skill? If you provide them anything that's a little more of a stretch goal, you better provide the necessary support to learn and the training necessary to move forward on it. I am the believer that if someone says, I can do this, let them give them the ability to do it, because truthfully, the commitment and the energy and the self-belief of I can do this goes so much further and is the intangible that's tough to measure. I believe most people who says, I can do this, will do this. Now, if I go to somebody and go, hey, I need to do this, I'm not sure I can do this. Okay, now I've got to rethink, because I still think your skill set is there, but now your will's not there. So I've now got to question, well, are you just being humble, or you know, what's the story? So that's the only, but if someone says, you know what, I think I can do this, I can do this, give them a shot. Because in reality, just like your boys, your Cub Scouts, you want them to say, I will do my best. I can never ask more of you than your best, but you can never give anything less. That's the contract that you and I will get together. And that's what, if they say, I can do this, or I think I can do it, give them a shot. Now, don't wind them up and set them over there and never look at them again. You should be, if you believe that the skill requires some stretching, be the mentor. Find a mentor. Give them the training. I believe in giving everybody a shot, because I think they can do it. And if they don't, what's the worst that happens? Really, what's the worst that happens? We tried it? Well, maybe we can make a few modifications. It was good. Thank you for volunteering, and we can find you something else to do. And it's not a hard conversation, so because usually that person recognizes a deficiency as well. Every once in a while, not, but usually they recognize it. Yeah.
We usually resort to trickery.
And candy.
Actually, what we do, we go with a very specific list of things that need to happen, timelines, and we're in the process of developing that for all the big projects and stuff. And then we set them up with a mentor, and we tag team them. Let 2 or 3 people corner them. Say, hey, look, we all believe you can do this.
Yep.
Please, would you consider trying, we all have faith in you, got this skill, this skill, this skill, and let them know that, that they can do it.
Right. And a lot of times the expression of faith by other adults that they respect is enough for most people to stand up a little straighter and go, yeah, I can do this. And truthfully, the committee more likely would not have chosen them if they didn't think that they had a possibility of success. That's how you motivate people. Believe in them, give them an opportunity. Don't leave them by themselves, provide them the necessary support to succeed. That's sort of how you work with your Cub Scouts.